Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in with Patrick Ministries, and today I have a message for you. And today we're talking about the laws of God and the laws of man. So I'll have to do a whole video on this, and probably a PowerPoint, and most likely something else. But for today, this is just the message that I have that's on my heart and my mind. So today's message, like I said, is about the laws of God and laws of man. So the first thing we need to understand, which I think is why a lot of atheism exists and a lot of contradicting things and a lot of people who try to argue about God's word, is that God doesn't go by the same laws as humans or people. He has his own laws. He has his own sense of what's right and wrong. And I think it's kind of odd that humans are trying to tell God or their creator like what's right or what's wrong. And if we go back to Genesis with Adam and Eve, after they had eaten from the tree, basically they were like, they have become like us, gods who know the difference between good and evil. So before you say God doesn't know the difference between good and evil or the distinction, God has a perfect understanding of the difference between good and evil. And he knows this because he actually created us and intended for us, if you look at my previous video, for us not to be capable of sin. So we were capable of doing no wrongdoing when he created us, right? And he had already made the distinction between good and evil. Now, this is a higher concept, but let's just imagine energy. And if energy could be divided equally, obviously certain things, certain behaviors, and other things would give off negative energy, evil energy, and other things would give off good and positive energy. So if you could just imagine that every single thing in the universe, there's no gray area, falls into either the good side or the bad side, then we should obviously know that God understands the difference between good and evil. A lot of people think of things God has done in the past or in the Bible as being evil, and they're like, why would I want to serve a God who kills people? Or why would I want to serve a God who thinks this? Or why would I want to serve a God who tells me I can't be this or I can't be myself? And I think the reality is, and what people need to understand, and I really don't honestly care if they care or not, is that if God created us, he has every right to tell us what's right and what's wrong and what he doesn't want us to do. It's just that us as having free will, which once again was in my previous video, we want to tell God what to do, and we want to tell God how he should operate, and we want to tell God what's right and wrong. Well, we don't have a right to tell God what's right or wrong. And people, just like people have children and they say they don't have a right to tell them anything. We don't have the right to tell God anything either. It's just that as human beings, we're always rebelling, and that is in our nature. And that is actually the flesh that is rebelling against God, because it's not subject to God. So your flesh just wants to do whatever it wants to do. And then you get mad because you basically, well, not you, but people get mad because they technically don't want to stop doing what they want to do. So I'm going to read these scriptures, and then I'm going to further elaborate some more. So this is Isaiah 55:7. And going forward, and it says, let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your thoughts, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain cometh down and the snow from the heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that is, it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth and out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereunto I sent it. For ye shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills shall break forth before you into singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Instead of the thorn shall come up the fir tree, and instead of the briar shall come up the myrtle tree, and it shall be to the Lord for a name, for an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off. So basically, I didn't have to read the whole thing. The whole point was God's ways are not our ways. It says earth is higher than heaven. So whatever we can surmise on earth, and whatever we can come up with on heaven, and whatever human concepts we can come up with on earth, it doesn't really matter. God's ways will always be higher than our ways. He has a larger understanding of the universe and how things work than we do. And I already explained that he already knew the difference between good and evil, because he created us, and he intentionally created us not to be able to be capable of evil. but we were tempted. So God operates by his own laws, and God operates by his own thinking, which is perfect and righteous. The fact that God created beings that he wanted to only do good tells you that he has good intentions. So some examples I have are basically like the political systems, jail systems, the law, the judicial system. That the judicial system attempts to make a distinction between what is right and wrong. And we know that often this crosses over between good and evil and what's right or wrong, because sometimes it's hard to make that distinction. So that's why the judicial system was created. So basically, God is governing on his own judicial system. And basically, with that being said, if you know anything about the law system or judicial system, we often, there's a consequence and there's a penalty for breaking the law. And often people can agree that certain things are right or quotation mark righteous when it comes to the law. Like, for example, murder is being put on death row. But if we say that murder is inherently evil or murder is evil, how can we say that killing a murderer isn't also evil? So technically people will try to justify the evil of murdering someone by using their own evil to justify the next evil. So technically murdering someone is wrong regardless, but humans try to justify things based on the actions of others or what they perceive to be evil or wrongdoing by others. It's never okay to kill anyone. And I'm not going to sit here and make a political debate or online say whether or not I feel like murderers should be put on death row or if we should operate on the system of an eye for an eye. But I'm just pointing out the fact that humans are technically hypocritical towards God, because we try to technically be God's lowercase ourselves by determining what's right or wrong. So I hope that makes sense. God's operating on his own system. It doesn't really matter what we believe. And even humans don't go by their own, thought process. And even as human beings, we don't all agree on what's right or wrong. Like, some of us believe in God and some of us don't. So some of us believe it's good to follow religion and some of us don't. There's always someone on one side or another, or some opposite side that believes something different than what we believe. So where is the middle ground? Where is the point where we meet? Is there a perfect point where we meet? And another example I like to use is police officers. People think it's okay for police officers to basically, kill people, on the basis of crime and on the basis of, them doing something wrong. So if someone is getting attacked or something, then human beings, or the majority of human beings, would say, okay, it's okay for the officer to kill that person based on the fact that they were a danger to other people. But I feel like people don't give God that same, quote, grace or that same benefit of the doubt. So when people say that God sent a flood in the Old Testament and killed everybody because they were evil when they were doing evil towards each other, I'm pretty sure if you could see what they were actually doing to each other and with the ways that they were operating, that you would probably agree that some of them would probably need to, not exist anymore. But I feel like since people just have a general understanding of the Bible, and I feel like people are just trying to find a reason to justify not liking God. And I don't really talk about other religions that much, but in every religion, there's some kind of God of war, lowercase g, or some kind of God based on this, or there's some kind of consequence or some kind of system where somebody's lower or higher than someone else. So I kind of feel like people don't give God the same grace, and I feel like people are just finding an excuse to not like God. And then on top of that, it's like, why does he let things going on earth? And that's a whole entire other concept. And you would never be able to explain some of these concepts to people because they're so hard-hearted and they're so, against what is trying to be taught, that they don't want to accept the fact that some things aren't explained in this life, or we won't understand everything right now, or some concepts are just higher than a human thought process because humans somehow think that they are capable of the most highest thinking in the world. But anyways, I hope this made sense. I'll be making some more videos on this and probably a podcast and some more things, just because I feel like this concept needs to be explained more. So thank you for tuning in and have a good day.